Hello, all. Greetings from the United Center for the second night in a row, roughly 24 hours later from the last time we spoke. This time is not as happy of an occasion for Rutgers, which loses to UCLA in the third round of the Big Ten tournament, a defeat that essentially ends its season, barring a borderline miraculous invite to a postseason tournament if enough teams decline. And I'm not even sure Rutgers would say yes. I asked Steve Peichel in the locker room shortly ago, and he did not really have an answer. But I could not find Kelly Zinn to ask her either. So, but I don't think that's going to be a question they're going to have to answer anyway, though I said the same thing about football, and there we were in December looking at potential flights to Birmingham for the Birmingham Bowl for about 20 minutes. So we shall see there, but that's not the pressing thing here. The pressing thing here is that Rutgers, 24 hours after upsetting Minnesota, is unable to do so against UCLA, a team that was far more talented and ultimately played like it down the stretch, took control of the game late first half, early second half, built a lead as big as 15. And while they didn't, build it even bigger than that, and it wasn't as bad as the 33-point demolition Rutgers suffered in Westwood, this was a game that Rutgers really couldn't climb back into. They got it to 9 3 times in the last 15 minutes, but could never really get over the hump. UCLA answered every single time. And again, offensively, they just had so much more talent. They was two forwards who hit threes at a high clip. They had really talented guards in Donovan Dent, who had a triple-double tonight. Trent Perry played really well. So Rutgers just had a hard time keeping up because Tariq Francis, a day after scoring 29 points, program record in Big Ten tournament games, was held to 6 points on 2 of 11 shooting, 0 of 5 on threes, regressed to the mean, or even had on the opposite extreme of last night. UCLA did whatever it could to keep the ball out of his hands, to force tough shots, to close baseline, to just make it hard on him and the rest of the Scarlet Knights. Rutgers struggled offensively. They shot 37.9%, 31.6% on threes. They did shoot 90% on free throws, but they only shot 10 of them. They only got 7 offensive rebounds on 36 misses. They did have 14 assists on their 22 made field goals. They went 8 of 15 on layups. Tariq Francis had a rough night. Darren Buchanan, 9 points on 4 of 11, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, 1 steal. He had a bit of an up and down night. Leno Mark had a standout night, 17 points on 6 of 11 shooting, 4 or 5 on free throws, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal against a team from his native Los Angeles. Dylan Grant had a bit of a nightmare of a game, 5 points on 1 of 6 shooting, 3 rebounds, 3 turnovers, 2 blocks. The stats didn't really do justice to just a really rough game from him. Manny Obole, another excellent game, second straight excellent game, leaving the best for what appears to be last, because the way Steve Peichel spoke about him in his opening remarks at his press conference seemed to have some finality to it. Said they're going to miss Manny. Said he looked great in his last game. I pressed Steve Peichel on it, and he, because Manny did say he was going to apply for a waiver, and Steve just really didn't have much to say there. Said 1,000 players are going to apply for waivers, and when I followed up and asked if he would have liked to have Manny back if he gets the waiver, he really was non-committal there. So I would be surprised if Manny Obole is back in a Rutgers uniform next year, but stranger things have happened. Anyway, to the present, he had 8 points on 4 or 5 shooting, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 2 blocks in 31 minutes. And beyond the stats, he really clogged up the middle and forced UCLA into passing the ball out of the block a couple times. UCLA shot 8 of 19 on layups. Some of that was awful shooting, to be fair, but Emmanuel did have a presence there finally today. And obviously he did have 4 fouls, but he played 31 minutes. Jermichael Davis, again, regressed after a really good game yesterday. 5 points on 2 of 7 shooting, 1 of 3 on threes. Caden Powers, 0 points on 0 of 2 shooting in 7 minutes. After some promise earlier in the season, he's had a bit of a rough end to the year. And Harun Zerno, 9 points, 3 of 5 shooting, all on threes. Hit his first 3 threes, but couldn't keep that going in the second half. 3 rebounds, 1 steal. He tried a couple of times to get into the paint and dribble into it when he had some space, but that's just not his game. So that's looking at the game. Let me go through some of your guys' comments now. Mark Greenberg asks if I agree that there isn't one starter on this team for next season. The only one I would say that has a chance is Tariq Francis. Tariq Francis, who seemed to indicate he's coming back, but left some room for not. He said he would like to be back, but just immediately after a game, and he still has to give some I don't want to misquote him, so I'll stop myself there. But my sense in what he said was that he would like to be back. He plans to be back, but he hasn't 100% made a decision. That is my recollection and interpretation of what he said. Again, I will have a story with what he said precisely, so you guys can read into it however you'd like. But aside from him, who could be, in theory, your two guard, a guy who gets the ball still as much as a little bit less than he does now, but still gets it a ton and can be your scorer. Again, I mean, Rutgers is not going to change the way it plays offensively. I would be shocked. It's just not something that it would just be a radical shift compared to what they've been. So I would be surprised there. And if you're going to keep playing the way they do, which is very ISO heavy, very dependent on individual talent, Tariq Francis is probably going to be the best scorer on the team next year, unless they get a home run in at point guard or whatever. But anyway, the point being, I could see him being a starter. Other than that, there's no starter on this roster. I just don't think Lino Mark is at a point in his career, even if he has a great offseason, that he will be able to be the starting point guard of a Big Ten team. He's shown signs. He's just not all the way there. And I don't know if there's anyone else that's even really close, to be honest, unless I'm forgetting someone off the top of my head. Scott Tribuker says UCLA is more talented and better coached. It seems like UCLA took the air out of the ball and slowed the game down to a crawl. Rutgers had no answers to beat their defense. Someone, I think it was Isaac Trotter from 247 Sports, I could be wrong there, but said they put a vice grip on Rutgers, and that's exactly it. They just dribbled the game out, played deep into the shot clock, lowered the amount of possessions, and defensively made life hell for Rutgers and did just enough offensively. They did create some open looks. They hit threes. They, a couple times on baseline out of bounds, they got wide open looks at the rim because Rutgers defenders lost their man. And yeah, again, I would just ultimately agree that UCLA is significantly more talented, and that really showed itself, particularly in the game in LA, but tonight as well. Sky Park City, Utah says, I see lots of improvement. Normally, they would be great. I'm just not sure what players or coaches will be on the team. NIL makes building so hard as teams will poach. I don't know if poach is the correct word here for a majority of the Rutgers roster. Poach implies another team wanting to take a player because he's really good, right? And I just, again, as I said with the initial question about the starters, I'm just not sure it's there. The question for Rutgers is going to be, how many of these players do they want to come back? Who do they see fitting in a precise role that they want? And how many of those players of that list want to come back in those roles? That is the main question. And then from there, you build out the rest of the roster. As I've said many times, I think you have to go 1A, 1B, a starting point guard and a starting center. Guys who can play at the Big Ten level on both ends of the court, a floor general who can share the ball and can score on his own, and a center who can protect the rim, play inside, and finish around the rim, get some dunks, create for himself maybe a little bit. I think it's a bit too much to ask maybe for Rutgers to get a center that can hit threes. Xavier Booker today, a former 5-star top 10 player in the Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey's class, was hitting threes. I just don't know if Rutgers is going to be able to get a type of player like that because there's only so many of them. But certainly they need an old school style center, Cliff Omori, Miles Johnson type that can protect the rim and score a little bit on the other end. Sky Park State says huge improvement compared to the last time Rutgers played UCLA. This felt like a game and Rutgers had a chance. I mean, it's impossible not to have a better improvement from, I think, what was the second worst defensive efficiency number Rutgers has had in the Ken Pom era. So yes, I would agree that they played them better. They played them pretty well for the first 15 minutes or so. And then UCLA had that one punch at the start of the second half, and Rutgers was never really able to answer it back. Sorry, Frank, we're going late. The game was late. It's not really my fault. I'm actually on here faster than I thought I would be, but I wanted to get on here before people, precisely like you said, went to bed. I think people were more willing to get up or stay up for a win last night than a loss today. Cobbs P, who yesterday was Patrick Hobbs 1960, says disappointing loss but bright future, clear upward trajectory with the right coach and tremendous facilities. Very objective, non-biased view here from P. Cobbs, who is totally not Pat Hobbs. Next season up is football, only 6 months away. And there's no spring game to look forward to for Rutgers fans, so you're going to have to wait 6 months to see who's behind center and how the boys are looking. Here he says, he's sitting in St. Peter's Hospital right now for the birth of his son. Am I coming to sign his forehead? No, it's a bit of a long drive to get there right now, but much congratulations to you and your family. May he come out with a lot of health. May he bring you all a lot of happiness, and may he live a very long life, fruitful life, and hopefully for your sake, for his sake, for everyone's sake, a very happy life as a fan, I'm assuming, of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Right Science Fiction says, let's get back to a roster of big guards and wings who are fearless, tough, and willing to get physical. On that runaway dunk by Cooper, parted the Rutgers defense. I mean, at least contested. I didn't have a great view to it, but he did emphatically slam that. You heard it across the arena. Yes, I think that is the biggest departure this season from the usual successful Rutgers teams under Steve Peichel, that they just didn't have the size in the backcourt. They were so small between Tariq Francis, JaMychal Davis. Lino Mark is a bigger guy than both of those, but he's still a smaller guard. This is not, Geo Baker, Caleb McConnell, Paul Mulcahy, that level of size that really was a foundational piece of the defensive success Rutgers had, along with having a really good center in the middle. So I would agree that Rutgers has to get back to that, the size profile. I think Steve Peichel is cognizant of that. Again, the market forces will dictate some of this. Will Rutgers be able to be in the market for a player like that? Because that's what people are going to want as well. He need big guards. Well, I should say they. I don't know if Right Science Fiction is a man or a woman, but need big guards, wings, and a center who are absolutely fearless and have some above average skills. Yes, I mean, you kind of sum it up there. They need a lot of players with above average skills at a lot of positions. I've said the priorities, but you need to fill out the depth as well. And I just don't think there are enough guys on this roster that you can fill the depth entirely with it. I think you need to get your majority of your starting five, if not your entire starting five, and some depth in the portal, which is hard. 100%, it's hard. It's much easier to retain players who what you have in them and where they can grow, etc., than it is to fill spots with players on other teams that you don't have as close of an eye on them. You don't understand them fully as you do your own players. It does make it harder to build an entire team of transfers in that way. But it's been done. And at the highest level, it's been done. Obviously, the teams at the highest level have the highest amount of money to work with. So I understand it makes it harder when you are at Rutgers level, which is at best in the middle of the Big Ten, probably slightly below that. But it's what Rutgers has to do in this reality. And unless it starts nailing high school recruiting again and becoming somehow becoming the next Michigan State, where you do retain these guys, or Purdue over year, and you become a place that develops guys, I just don't think that's possible unless you do have the money that Michigan State and Purdue have as well. But unless you do that, unless you become a high school development factory again, this is going to be the reality for Rutgers from here on out, is building new rosters every year through the portal. And hopefully, as the years go on, you build more and more of your roster through retention. But Infinite MPG asked if I did anything interesting my extra day in Chicago. I slept in late. I woke up early to finish the story. Once they had published, I fell back asleep and I woke up around noon here. I went to Wiener Circle, which was recommended by many people. Unfortunately, I didn't realize people wanted me to go after the game because it's apparently a zoo at night. I didn't realize that. I thought it was recommended to me because the hot dog is very good, not because of the ambiance. So I missed out on the atmosphere, but the hot dog was good. I love me a good Chicago hot dog. Sport peppers were excellent. The tomato was great. The dog itself was fine. The bun also was fine. It was a good dog. I don't know if it was a dog that I would travel across the world to. I don't know if it's I can understand why the ambiance is the biggest part of this place. Again, I enjoyed the dog. I enjoyed the fries. I enjoyed the aesthetic of the place. There was a Jersey Best podcast sticker slapped on top, which I appreciate one of my colleagues doing that. But I think I beefed up by not going to Mr. Beef, which I will remedy at some point in the future. But thank you for asking. I didn't do anything that interesting. I'll be flying out tomorrow morning. Or tomorrow. I don't know. I actually don't remember what time my flight is. Ski Park City, Utah says, will any New Jersey teams play in the NCAA tournament this year? No, it does not look like it, barring Seton Hall winning the Big East tournament. Monmouth could have done it. They were in the CAA tournament final. They lost to Hofstra in a close game. That Hofstra led for the most part in the second half, but they were in it. And I was ready to write about it, but Monmouth loses in a final again. I think it's the third time in the last 10 years they lose in a conference final. Brutal for King Rice. But they're not going to be in it. NJIT's been eliminated. Ryder obviously is having a brutal year. St. Peter's has been eliminated. The MAG tournament ended already. Princeton, I think, is out of Ivy League. So Seton Hall is the only hope. And Seton Hall, I mean, if you want hope, if you're a Rutgers fan, look at what Seton Hall did this year, revitalizing their entire roster, being picked to finish last in the Big East and finishing fourth, and being on the NCAA tournament bubble. I think if you are a realistic Rutgers fan and you're looking at what the best case scenario is for next year, it is being in exactly where Seton Hall's level is, or maybe even better, being on closer to the top of the bubble than they are now. But I think it would be a bit ambitious to think this team is going to be a surefire NCAA tournament team next year, even at its best. But I do think it's totally reasonable to think they can create a roster competitive enough to win 10 Big Ten games at its high point and be on the bubble this week, entering the Big Ten tournament, needing a win or two to improve your resume, not having the season be over in January. I think that is I guess I will melt it down to that. Playing meaningful games in February. I think that's the high-end reasonable goal for this Rutgers team next year. And now, in the next 2 months, we'll see how the pieces of the puzzle for next season's team will be built and how the Scarlet Knights are looking. I imagine most of you are in bed considering it's 12 o'clock on the East Coast. But if there are any more questions or comments, I would be happy to talk about them. We're not going to do another live show here again until football season, or I shouldn't say that. We'll probably do live shows every week during the off season. More information on that in the future. But what I'm saying is we won't have an immediate reaction pod to a game anytime soon. Steve and I will record a pod tomorrow at some point. It'll have to work around my travel schedule. Unfortunately, I can't record on a United flight yet, I don't think. One, because the Wi-Fi is not good, and two, because I will be worse than the crying babies on flights, because at the very least, the crying babies cannot control themselves, and I can. Though I will say the audio on the plane might be better than our last podcast where Steve and I beefed up. Apologies for that again. Sky Park City asks, thank you, Sky Park City, for your participation. I sincerely appreciate it. Will we raise enough money for next season? People seem optimistic on fundraising. The money is raised right now. I guess in theory, you still have another month to raise money, but the bulk of it, if not all of it, is done right now. And our understanding is that Rutgers had a goal of $8 million entering the year. They got to that goal in January. Kelly's didn't said on our podcast, they got to their initial goal in January. We had heard separately from that goal was $8 million, and it sounds like they're closer to 10. I don't know if they've gotten to 10, but certainly that was the new goal going into April, and it sounds like they were making good progress there. So I would guess Rutgers has anywhere between 9 to 10 million. I don't know where that fits in the picture of the Big Ten. I don't, and I don't know if anyone outside of people at the highest levels of these athletic departments know. So to answer your question, they raised the money. They have at least twice as much money as they had this season. The question is, does everyone else also have that much more money? And the second question is, how will they deploy that more money? How much of an impact will Rob Sullivan have? How much more of an impact will the more money have? How much more competitive will Rutgers be? These are questions we have and won't know the answer to. I don't think anyone will know the answer to until we can reevaluate this whole thing, at the end of April. Pat Hobbs says, I think the portal will be helpful, but the biggest key will be retention and continued development of the current roster. If you can bring back Lino Mark and continue to develop him, big win. If you could bring back Tariq Francis and he takes another seismic leap the way he did this year, big win. If you can bring back Caden Powers or Chris Newley or Harun Zerno or any of these guys and put him in position to take a leap forward, absolutely. But I think that if you don't improve the roster through the portal, if that is not the main reason your roster gets better, if you don't add really talented players at point guard, at center, and add a couple of more dudes at the forward or guard spots, whatever, the 2, 3, 4 area. If you don't add dudes to that side, I just think you're kind of cooked. I think you're kind of dead on arrival. As much as people want to harp on development and as much as people want to harp on them being better down the stretch of the season, and they did win 5 of their last 8 games, those 5 games came against 2 against Maryland, who finished 17th in the Big Ten, 2 against Penn State, who finished 18th in the Big Ten, and 1 against Minnesota, who has 6 guys on his roster. And it's probably running on fumes at this point. So, yes, it's better than finishing last in the Big Ten. Certainly, they exceeded the very low expectations entering the year. But I think people are getting a little over their skis and thinking that if they run it back with this roster, they'll be suddenly a 500 team in Big Ten play. I don't see it. I don't see the pieces there. They don't have enough shooting. They don't have enough players that can create off the dribble. They don't have enough size. They don't have enough defensive talent, partly because of that size. They just don't have a lot. So I think you have to bolster the roster through the portal, because even if these guys take massive leaps in the offseason, it's not going to be enough. Let me check the Discord in case there's anything happening here. Again, guys, if you guys hear anything, sorry, if you guys have any more questions, please leave them in the chat. Nothing in the Discord, nothing in the chat. All right, guys. Well, unless there's any last second comments, questions, or concerns, thank you all for following along this season. Thank you all for tuning into our lives and participating. It really does help me to have something else to talk about, but it helps the show. It helps grow the Rutgers Rant YouTube channel, and it makes the season more fun for myself personally to be able to talk to you guys after every game. I hope you guys have enjoyed our commentary. While you might not always agree with it, I hope you believe that we've been fair, and I hope that you guys found some value in this. And I think I can't thank you guys enough for watching, for listening, for subscribing, for liking. It really does mean a lot to us and to NJ.com and to my bosses who look at these numbers closely as well. So keep watching, keep liking, subscribe if you haven't. Subscribe on podcast platforms as well. Stay at the Heldridge Hotel, the best hotel in downtown New Brunswick or anywhere in that surrounding area, frankly. Thank you, Curie, for the safe travels. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you, Pat Hobbs, for calling me the all-knowing authority on college athletics. And thank you to Infinite MPG for your appreciation of the live shows. We will talk to you guys soon. If you have any questions for tomorrow's podcast, put them in the Discord or at me on Twitter or email me or whatever you want to do. Find me in the airport. Let me know. Otherwise, we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again for tuning in. And I'll see you back in New Brunswick.